Welcome, 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 everyone, to today's show. A boomer and a Gen Xer walk into a bar. Coming to you from the Rabbit Run studio, where you as our listeners will experience some wit and wisdom, some smartassery, and this mother and that daughter questioning, are we even related? My name is Jane. My co-host is my daughter, Bobby. For the next several minutes, we are here to entertain you. Bobby, how are you doing today?
You know, it is colder than Alaska up here, and we got warnings that I've never had the entirety that I've lived in the northern states. We got warnings of exploding trees today. So
wow, that's bizarre.
That's what I said.
I've never heard of such a thing. Well, I don't
like explosive diarrhea.
Explosive diarrhea of a tree. That's right. That's right. It's got a lot of bark coming out. It's funny because I don't know when our listeners will be listening to this. Of course, they can go in and grab anything out of our library and listen to it anytime they want. But we are recording in January, and it is cold up north and it is cold down south. And I mean cold, cold. So we're expecting a snowstorm here. Of course, you know, snowstorm in the south is a little different from a snowstorm in the Midwest.
Definitely. I know when I lived in Texas, I think one time in 4 years, we got a 1/4 inch of snow, which is a light dusting up here. And the entire state shut down. So that was fun.
That's exactly what, I mean, last year we had a snowstorm that hit Atlanta, and I'm not kidding you. It was like a show of a lifetime. It was like the circus came to town. And, you know, because, well, they don't have equipment down here like we've got up north, right? They don't need it.
Right.
And so, you know, people are scared. And when you're not used to driving on snow and ice, I mean, it is treacherous. Even those of us who are used to driving on snow and ice, we get scared. I mean, it's white knuckle driving for us, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So what do we want to talk about today? I know we have a couple of topics, and I'm letting you choose today. So what would you like to talk about, my dear?
Well, I think the last couple of episodes, we've kind of been in agreement on some things, and it's kind of derailed a few of our listeners. So today I'm really going to poke the bear. And today we are going to talk about something that you don't want to talk about. That is protesting.
Protesting. Yes, we've got enough weirdos out on the street right now, and we're referring to it as protesting. And in some states, they're even talking about it being peaceful protesting. So we can talk about that, absolutely, because I'm pretty sick and tired of it. So, let's go. Let's roll, sister.
All right. So let's start off with, what do you know about protesting, like legally? Let's start with the basics. Protesting. What do you think when you hear about protesting?
Well, obviously, it's part of the First Amendment rights.
Right.
So protesters' right, First Amendment, it protects your right to assemble and express your views through protest. Now, police and other government officials are allowed to place certain narrow restrictions on the exercise of speech rights. So you need to make sure that you're brushing up on what that right actually means before you go and head out on the streets and start attacking people. Because let's face it, Bobby, that's what we're seeing right now is a lot of attacks. And that is something that I am so totally against. So when you just now said, you and I are not going to agree, I'm all for a peaceful protest. You want to protest something? I think a peaceful protest, but what's a peaceful protest look like to you, Bobby?
Like you said, legally, it does protect the right to assemble and speak in public places such as sidewalks, parks, even government-owned places like the state capitol, things like that. It ranges from marches, rallies, and vigils to nonviolent civil disobedience, boycotts, and sit-ins. Now, this was a big thing up at the state of Iowa Capitol not too long ago. I actually know people that went and did a sit-in and used their First Amendment right, and it was a peaceful protest, and many of them were arrested. Many of them were violently arrested. A lot of the charge, I think 99% of them got the charges dropped.
So tell me how they got arrested, though. If it was a peaceful protest, it wasn't impeding any type of rules, regulations, any type of traffic, any type of, work scenarios. Why is it that they got arrested? If it was on public property, because sidewalks are public property, parks, most parks. There are some that are
Right.
not public parks. But anyway, if everything was peaceful, why did they get arrested?
So we don't know. Apparently, there were some people there who were higher up in government that just did not like that they were there, did not like that, they were peacefully assembling, and demanded that they be arrested and removed from the property. Now, there were some mistakes made. They did admit that there were some mistakes made on the law enforcement side, that they should not have been arrested. They were doing a peaceful sit-in. But, it kind of goes to, what are we willing to deal with? What are we willing to allow people to do with their First Amendment right? Because, you see when Trump came to town, this was a while back, President Trump came to town, and they actually told people, listen, you can protest, but it has to be 3 blocks away from the route that he's taking. It has to be within this caged area. It has to, they put all these parameters on it, and people were going, wait a second, this is not our First Amendment right. Our First Amendment right. Oh, excuse you, Dr. Domain.
We're all fighting colds, I mean, come on.
No, it's okay. But they had parameters set up, and it was basically a caged area that was blocks away from what was going on. And at that point, it's like, why even protest there? Because the person that you're trying to, have see is not going to see it. Why were they not allowed to peacefully protest in the public areas that he was going to pass, type of thing? And this is a huge thing. This is something that, and we'll talk about, what happens when it turns violent and things like that, but at a even a peaceful protest, you have to be prepared to defend your First Amendment right. And I'm not saying, fight somebody. I'm saying you have to be prepared to be detained. You have to be prepared to be arrested. You have to be prepared for certain people committing acts that do not align with the First Amendment right. That can be a scary thing, but I'm against the fact that they're going to tell me that I cannot use my First Amendment right on a public property just because a certain person is going to be driving by it.
Well,
I'm
you know
against
what? Well, I'm not, because it says in the rights that, they have the right to have parameters. They have the right to set boundaries. And so whether we like it or not, they have that right to do it.
Neutral, but they have to be neutral parameters and boundaries.
Okay.
And I don't see that as being neutral at all.
I guess that's a matter
kind of one-sided.
So I guess that's a matter of perception. Now, I think back of when I was growing up, and of course I was pretty darn young in the 60s when we had, a lot of the sit-ins, and they were protesting the Vietnam War and all of that. I wasn't even, I think I was still in diapers or in kindergarten or something. And so I didn't really understand it back then. But you look back at the protests that we had, those were not violent protests. Everybody thought the world was going to come to an end because we had young people who were actually advocating love and peace instead of, war and hate. And you look back and you go, what was so wrong about that? We would love to have that today, right?
But look at how many of those people were arrested being
They were
civil, being peaceful, being, using their First Amendment right. And not only were they arrested, they were sometimes violently arrested.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, they were drugged. They were, they were beat up. They were tear gas.
They had,
all kinds of stuff. And there were a lot of protests that weren't, because they did follow the rules. They did do it peacefully. Again, I think the older generation at that time really saw that as being very threatening. I mean, look at Martin Luther King's, march. There was nothing that wasn't peaceful about that. That whole thing. Everything was peaceful about that. And God love him. I mean, he wasn't the best cat in the world, but he certainly was an advocate for peaceful demonstration. Let's make a difference. Let's create change. The peaceful protest is also known as nonviolent resistance or nonviolent action. It is the act of expressing disapproval through a statement or action without the use of violence. Now, you're not going to tell me, Bobby, right now that you're not seeing a lot of violence on the street with the protests and all of these people who are acting like political pawns right now. You just want to say, don't you have a family at home? Seriously, go home. Because
Well, yes and no. So I'm going to bring this to another level on that. So you remember the quote unquote riots up in Minnesota a few years ago, right? They burned
right,
down police stations, things like that.
right.
Those started out as peaceful
No,
protests.
they didn't. Don't.
Yes,
No,
they
they
did.
didn't. Don't even
Yes,
say
they
that they
did.
did. No, they didn't. They started out
Because I
rioting.
believe, no, they did not, because they did not start rioting until that match was lit when the police came in and started strong arming them.
No, that's not true.
Yes.
It was when George Floyd died. So
No, I'm not
are you
saying
talking about that protest? Are you talking about that
I am.
burning down
I
of the
am.
city? Because there
I am.
wasn't anything peaceful about that anytime at all.
Oh, in the beginning, it was peaceful. If you watch the lives, it was peaceful. They were assembling on public property. They were assembling together without threats of violence until that match was struck. Now, I'm not saying it was definitely the police's fault, but I'm saying that people panicked. People panicked, people got scared. And what do we do when we're in a panic? We're in a group, we're in a crowd, and it's very volatile. We go from 0 to 100, and now all of a sudden everybody else goes to 100, and there's no stopping it. It spreads like wildfire.
But you're
through
saying
these
that it
groups.
started out peaceful. That may have been all of them.
Absolutely.
That was all of a minute. That was
Well,
all of a
I don't
minute.
agree with you on that.
Well,
I don't agree
we
with you
can
on
go
that.
back and pull the footage. We can pull the time stamps. We can pull all of that stuff because it wasn't, Bobby. It wasn't at all.
Can you admit that the reaction and the actions of certain people in higher power continued to make that worse?
Bobby, that we had people on the streets that were burning businesses down. We had people getting killed. We had people getting beat up because they were white. We had people who were being targeted because they were police officers just trying to do their jobs. So no, I'm not going to admit that. I think it's bullshit. I think it's bullshit when somebody acts that way. I do. I think that the term nonviolent resistance has nothing to do with burning down a city. It has nothing to do with people hurting other people, damaging property. You want to have a shit show in your own city? Fine. Let's put up a fence around you and let you tear the whole place apart. I don't give a shit. But when you start hurting other people and you start hurting somebody's property and you start sending those people home and now they're unemployed because they don't have a business to even go to, that's bullshit.
Ow! All right. So what do you think about the Rodney King protests and riots?
Oh, for God's sakes. You know what? I mean, yeah, well, we can.
Hold on.
Okay.
Let me give her a megaphone here. Go ahead.
Oh, so I just want to say about Rodney King. So I will not disagree with you on that was very adverse from the police department. Very adverse is what I remember. So,
and so
so there was some fault. Absolutely. The thing
as a people, let's say the roles are reversed. Let's say that as a people, let's just call it out. You're very white. So as a people, let's say
you act like that hurts me. It doesn't. I'm proud to be white. I'm proud of my heritage too. And I'm proud of everybody else's.
Okay.
You're ultra
down
white.
There, Satan.
What?
You're ultra white.
I'm ultra white?
Yeah.
You're toilet paper white.
Oh,
is what
stop
we call
it. Stop it.
Yeah, you're
but
like.
let's say
I thought it was cracker white.
The roles were reversed.
Okay.
Let's say the roles were reversed.
Let's say
that the police have had a history of violence towards white people who have assemblies. Let's say police have had the Rodney King incident, but Rodney King was white. Let's say police had the sit-ins and the Dr. King marches, but they were all white. So you're coming into this as a people, as someone who is proud of their heritage and wants to be supportive of their community, but police have a 100-year track or more track record of being violent towards your people, you don't think that you're not going to go in there defensive already, wanting to be peaceful, but there's that tinderbox. There's always that tinderbox. And so what happens is it could be the smallest thing. Like, let's say a cop pushes a protester with their riot shield. They shouldn't have, but they did. Now that set off the tinderbox for everyone else in that place. Everyone else in that place has their phones out and is live streaming to other places. Now everyone who's in that community is seeing it and wants to come down and help because their people are under attack. Can you see how a peaceful protest, even with just one misstep, can turn into a tinderbox? And I'm not saying rightfully so. I'm just giving a reason, not an excuse.
It sounds like an excuse.
It's not. It's an explanation.
I will say this. I don't disagree with you that our police force has had a history of probably whether, and I'm not going to say it's all blacks because it's not. It could be Mexicans. It could be young kids. Let's face it. You kids are white too. It's not like you're any darker than I am. And the fact is as young kids, you were harassed by the police. I remember somebody telling me one time that a black friend of mine, he said, well, if I get pulled over, I'm sitting there for 45 minutes while the cop checks everything else. Really? Me too. I don't get any exceptions here. I was there for 45 minutes too. I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that you can go into a situation very defensive. You can look at history and just say, oh, this is automatically going to happen to me because, I saw on the news that there was a negative encounter, and so I know this is going to happen to me. And I think people go into these things with preconceived notions. I'm not saying that the police, I'm not saying anybody did anything right. I'm saying that I think there's a big difference between nonviolent resistance that alone contains all forms of disapproval that can stay free of violence. I think it can.
But I mean, we do see a lot of the nonviolent resistance, the nonviolent sit-ins, the nonviolent protests. We do see arrests and, maybe some police misconduct at the arrests, things like that, when there never should have been. Now, talking about nonviolent protests that really riles people up, let's talk about a couple of those because I've already got you at 100 here, and I can see Dr. Domain is kind of shaking his head here. Let's talk about, what do you think about kneeling to the national anthem?
I don't give a shit what you do. You want to kneel at the national anthem? I don't give a shit. But if you hate this country like that, maybe it's time to leave. If you
why do they have to hate the country to have a peaceful, nonviolent
I don't give
protest?
a shit. Go ahead and kneel. I don't care.
But
that
you said what a lot
me.
of people say, that if you hate this country so much. No, it's not that I hate my country so much. I want my country to be the best. I want it to be equal for all. And if I choose a nonviolent protest, like as a football player, as an NFL player during the national anthem, I choose to kneel in front of millions of people to show that I am protesting what is something that is going on.
Fine. That's
nonviolent.
nonviolent.
Come up. Yeah, but too many people come up and say, well, then leave this country. Oh, get out of my country.
Listen, when I say it, and let me explain. When I say if you don't love our country, then get out. Because look how many people right now are really, Bobby, you're not going to sit here and convince me that we don't have violent resistance right now, because we do. And when people are trying to get to work and you've got people who are sitting in the middle of the street. Now, you may say, well, that's nonviolent. They're just sitting.
Well, that's illegal.
It's illegal. Yeah. And, when you have people who are disrespecting police officers and law enforcement, I'm not saying they do everything right, but you have no business spitting in their face. You have no business trying to hit them. You have no business. I mean, come on.
This country, let's be honest, this country was built on violent protests. This country has had violent protests since we broke off from England. This country has had violent protests since day one. So it's not anything new to us. Do I think people should be blocking traffic, standing in the streets, blocking paramedics and things? Absolutely not. That is one thing that I am hardcore. Get the hell out of the way.
Right, because I'm not slowing down. I'm not slowing down.
Get out of the street, type of thing. But, if someone wants to show their, I guess, disharmony with this country in a public manner, I don't immediately think, get out of my country. I think, hey, what are we doing wrong that we need to look at from a higher point of view, that these people are so upset that they will risk their careers, they will risk their lives in front of millions of people to show that something is wrong.
Is that really why, or are they trying to get 15 minutes of fame? Just don't, because that's not why. Because you talk to some of these people and they have no clue why they're even out there. They have no clue what they're even against. They have no clue what's being passed and what's not being passed and who's passing what and when and why. So that's baloney. That's baloney right there, because you don't. And you can't have a conversation, because you try to have a conversation, you ask any questions to see somebody else's point of view, and my God, you're a MAGA, or, you're a Trump supporter. And listen, I don't love Trump. I love my country. Let's talk about the deportations real quick. And I'm not going to get into the specifics of that, but what I will say is this, that if I was so opposed to these deportations, the one thing that I would be doing is, as a citizen of the United States, you have to ask yourself, why are these people not coming through the legal way? And we know why, because it takes anywhere from 5 to 20 years to become a citizen in the United States. Now, if I was so opposed to these deportations, why aren't you advocating through your senators and through your representatives that we stop that? That we make it so that people can actually come into our country legally in a timely manner, and it doesn't cost them $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 to do it. Because I don't have that kind of money, and neither do these people who are trying to seek a better life in the United States. I don't want these people coming into the United States illegally so that they can clean my bath, and this came from the Democrats, clean my bathroom, pick my cotton, do my dirty work. I don't want them doing any of that. I don't want them doing that. You know what I want them to do? I want them to come into the country legally. I want to make it easier for them to come into the country. And I want them to be able to get an education legally. And I want to work for them. I want them to be bosses. I want them to make it good here. I want them to raise the standard of living in the United States. That's what I want. And I don't understand why these people who are protesting it don't go to their senators and their representatives and say, hey, here's the reason why these people are coming in illegally. It's because you make it so freaking hard to get in here that they have no choice. That's what I'd be doing.
That's a whole nother podcast right there.
It is. But it's not fair to these people. It's not fair. Do I want them here? Yeah, I want them here legally. I want you to go through the process, but I don't want that process to take the time that it's taking, and no one is fighting that battle. That's what I don't understand.
So I have one more hardball for you.
Oh,
and
crap.
This is one
can you see how red my face is right now?
I can. And I am so glad that you are in Georgia right now, because you would whoop my ass. So, flag burning.
Oh. Flag burning. I think it's very disrespectful. Is it your right? It is your right. And, I guess I would defend that right for them to be able to do it in the United States, just like smokers. I don't want you to be a smoker anymore, Bobby, but I'll defend your right to smoke at any given point, just don't do it in my house. And, I think it's a right that they fought for. I hate to say that, but that's what freedom is all about. You have the freedom to do that. And I don't like it, but I think that they have the freedom to do it.
See, here's the problem I have with it. Now, I am 100% for freedom of speech. If that means flag burning, then by God, you bought that flag, burn it. It's a piece of cloth to me. I am not North Korean. I am not, my heart and soul and body do not belong to a piece of cloth. Now, the people that usually have a problem with it, you'll go to their house and they'll have a flag hanging outside that is a bastardization of the United States of America flag. And what I mean by that is they'll have a flag with a thin blue line. They'll have a flag with a green line. They'll have a flag that is not the colors, not the anything to do with the American flag, but they're going to make it their own. But by God, if you burn that American flag that you bought for $20 at Walmart, you're the problem with this country. I have a huge problem with that, because how are we going to bastardize a flag and make it into an icon that we put stickers on our cars of every different color in the freaking rainbow, but we can't have a flag that we bought with our own money and do whatever we want with it?
Well, Bobby, I don't know that I want to admit this, but I actually don't disagree with you. So I won't. I know. I won't say that you're right. I'm just going to say you're not wrong. How about that?
Now, I get some of the changes, especially on the military uniforms when we have the sand camo, things like that. It does need to be a different color on those patches in order to preserve the camouflage effect of the soldier. But yeah, I'm talking about, they got these black and gold and silver flags with this big blue line going, I lick boots and I support law enforcement. Now, let me tell you, first of all, I support law enforcement to a certain degree. I don't support the bad ones. I support the good ones. But when you have this giant black American flag hanging up with this giant stripe through it, and you're like, this is America, and if you don't like it, get off my lawn, and you're not allowed to burn flags. I got a problem with that, because, buddy, what are you doing?
Yeah, I totally agree with you, because the stars and stripes, the colors, and the entire flag itself represents something in our country. And but I do agree that, the people who fought and died for that right, they gave you the right to do what you want with that. And whether I agree or disagree and how I feel about it is how I feel about it. And that's my opinion, right? That's my opinion, right. And that's my thoughts. That may not be your thoughts. And so I would defend the right to do what you wanted to do. Now, I agree with you. There's a lot of flags out there and you go, or they're tattered, or, mine is out. I'm out in the country and mine gets hit hard. And yeah. Dr. Domain is very adamant about, taking the flag down and getting a new flag up. And I can't even tell you, I don't even know how many times he's pulled over either on the side of the road or he's seen a flag that is, laying on the ground or, wrapped up in something, and he'll stop and he'll straighten it out. Now that's, that's pride. And I'm okay. I'm good with that. I'm very proud of my country. I'm very proud of the people who, fought and died and lived, and the families that had to support these people to keep us where we're at as the nation that we are. But I'm with you. I don't like it. I don't like the way the flag is treated. And then, like you said, you go home and you've got this piece of crap that you're, waving. And it's like, wait a minute, you just disrespected the flag as much as, somebody who burned it.
Right. And honestly, that goes for any flag that you have. If you own something, that's yours. Do with it what you will. That's your right. But don't go on someone else's property and grab a flag because you don't agree with it and burn it or destroy it or steal it or damage it in any way.
Right.
Like, and that was big with the LGBTQ community. People were going up and stealing these flags, and even with the Trump flags. Now, I'm not saying I support Trump or not, but you're not going to go on someone else's property, destroy their property, and call it freedom of speech. That's not how this works.
Right.
That's not how it works at all.
I think everybody has the right to vote for who they want to in this country. I don't hold it against you. I think we fought for that right. And, I don't know who you voted for, if you even voted.
I do.
Okay. But I don't know who you voted for. And you know what? That's your right as an American. And you and I don't fight about that, because whoever wins, you know what? It's 4 years. Let's calm down, folks. Let's just calm on down, because it's 4 years.
And we don't talk about it.
And we don't
really
talk
don't
about,
talk about it.
And, I have friends that are on both sides of the coin, and we just really do not. I don't know who they voted for. We don't talk about it. You know why? We're not political pawns. We just are not. And but I think we both agree on nonviolent resistance. I am definitely not for any of the violence that I'm seeing right now, where people are coming up and attacking other people, or taking these megaphones and blowing it in your ear. You're going to bust somebody's eardrum, or attacking our police officers. I understand you disagree. Disagree. You don't need to spit in their face to disagree. And
yeah, and I will say, I'm kind of two-sided about it. I believe in 100% peaceful demonstration, protests, sit-ins, things like that. But if someone threatens my safety, my body, my life, boy, I'm fighting like I'm the last monkey on Noah's Ark's ramp, and it's starting to rain, buddy. Because all bets are off when that happens. And if I have to burn it to the ground to, save my people, I will. But, when it comes down to it, I absolutely believe in our right to a peaceful protest. What I don't believe in is the people who want to set parameters to these that are not neutral, that are, kind of hushing everything. Let these people sit. Let these people speak. Let these people be peaceful. Let's start doing what we need to do, because the more people who see it, the more people who understand what's going on, it gets them talking. It says, hey, what can I do to help? What are you fighting for? Why do you think this is wrong? And I think it does open lines of communication when it stays peaceful. It's when it immediately turns hateful and violent and things like that we have an issue, because then there is no talk. There's
Right.
no talk in
Right.
these.
Now it's just hate and spewing all kinds of venom at each other, and that gets us nowhere. And like I said, and I want people to come to our country, but I want them to come here legally. But folks, if you want to fight a fight, let's fight the fight of what makes sense. And it doesn't make sense to take 20 years to let somebody come to our country. It doesn't make sense for them to pay $20,000 to $50,000 to get their citizenship. If they're good, solid people and they're coming into the country and they want to do it legally for whatever reason, to make a better life for their family, whatever that reason is, for goodness sakes, let's attack that issue instead of attacking each other. That's all I'm going to say.
Absolutely. And you know what, Mom? I took you from 0 to 100 and then back down again. So
look at you being the psychologist that you are not. But yeah, it does get me wired. It really does, because, I don't hate anybody for their opinion. I don't hate anybody for who they voted for. It's 4 years. Get over yourself. And,
yeah.
a lot can happen in 4 years. I get it. But yeah, stop being a political pawn, people. They don't know you from Adam. Come on, live your life. Go home to your family. You can stand your ground without being nasty about it, so that's where I stand, Bobby.
Yeah. And I will say these parting words. If you are at a peaceful protest, if you are, at a sit-in, things like that, and things turn wrong, look for the helpers. If you don't see them, become one. That's all the insanity and rallying up of my mother that I have for today.
I didn't see that one coming either. So,
but hey, we do appreciate you joining us at the Rabbit Run Studio every single week. So be sure to follow us and like us on our official Facebook page. If you have any positive feedback, or if there's a topic you want to talk about, drop us an email at boomerandgenxer@gmail.com. And if you have hate mail, well, put it on a sign and put it in your front yard. Maybe I'll stop and read it.
There you go.
Listen, until next week, I'm Bobby Joy.
And I'm Jane Burt.
And
you're stuck with us. Did we get that? Peace out.
Later.